We are here to talk about how the artistic expression of and representing oceanic indigenous peoples in Australia is intertwined with culture. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, Australia is the only continent where an entire indigenous population has maintained a hunter-gatherer culture into modern times. The artistic expression in these nations is rooted in its cultural complexity of tradition and modernity, both in competition and blended together. Assigned the name Aborigine by European settlers who colonized parts of Australia, the indigenous peoples still feel the lasting effects of colonialism on not only their ways of life, but their identity. This plays out in their art, with a main focus of expression in indigenous Australian communities being maintaining their own culture and tradition. Even before European colonialism in the 1920s and 30s, Indonesian and Papua New Guinea seed traders left a lasting influence on Aborigines. There are some regions of the continent where traditional life remained, but many in which it was lost completely, altered, or mixed with other nations. With evidence of personal ornamentation, trade in objects, occasional gatherings, and sacred rituals dating back to as early as 30,000 years ago or more, there were many opportunities for Australian Aboriginals to utilize material art and aesthetic expression, both within their cultural practices and their everyday lives. As nomadic peoples, they had a strong attachment to the earth and belief in life-giving spiritual forces. This led to regular rituals to ensure that life-giving power, thus, quote-unquote, providing an immense scope for aesthetic expression. Sacred object art, body decoration, elaborate headdresses, carvings of species, and ceremonial poles and posts are some examples of distinctive uses for art in nations within the indigenous peoples of Australia. We are now going to discuss three modern artists, Bindi Cole, John Marunjul, and Clifford Possum Chapochari.
Bindi Cole is a contemporary Aboriginal artist who works mainly through photography. The Aboriginal culture has been integral in refining herself as a person and being able to truly examine what being Aboriginal means. She was born in 1975 in Melbourne, Australia, and holds a diploma in applied photography. Cole had a less than ideal childhood. Growing up, her mother worked as a stripper while suffering from a heroin addiction. She got her first camera from her mother and took pictures until her mother died when she was 16. It was then when she really started going down into a deep depression, which resulted in her looking to drugs for consolation. Unfortunately, or maybe extremely fortunately, Bindi Cole was caught selling drugs and was sentenced to serve 2 years in prison. Here she had the time to self-reflect and she found the support of religion, which led her to decide that something needed to be changed. Within 2 years of being released, she was in school learning about photography. Her work is compelling and it delves deep into the problems of society in order to examine what true culture is and how it shapes who we are. She recognizes that not everything about culture is good, and the stereotypes brought along by each culture can ultimately have a negative effect on the way people view things. Stereotypes include the way a person should look or behave. For instance, she goes against society's perception of what a traditional Aboriginal person looks like due to her fair complexion. She works with Indigenous groups that do not necessarily fall cleanly into the Aboriginal view and challenges people to deeply think about what it means to be an Aboriginal. Exhibits by Bindi Cole include Not Really Aboriginal, in which she responds to the theme of assumptions about categorizing a group or race of people, in this case, Aboriginals. She experienced off-putting or less than ideal responses from people about her being light-skinned and Aboriginal. This exhibit plays on those misconceptions in society at large about Aboriginals.
John Marunjul has gained worldwide recognition for his contemporary Indigenous Australian works and has won many awards and recognition everywhere. Many of his works has always displayed themes of spirituality, mythology, and the life cycle. One particular subject of interest in his works has been about a powerful mythological creature to Aboriginal culture known as the Nalyad. This creature is also known as a powerful rainbow serpent god and has characteristics that varies within each Aboriginal group in Australia. In this particular work of art, one can see the rainbow serpent encircling two Yak sisters, which is also equivalent to mermaids in our culture. This painting is supposed to demonstrate the Nalyad transforming these creatures into spiritual entities by engulfing them. In this particular picture right here, one can see that it's an abstract painting with contrasting colors and sharp lines to convey the powerful presence of the ritual itself. Though the ritual isn't performed much anymore in modern days, it's played a big role in this artist's life because the ritual tied in with his ascendance to manhood. Clifford Possum Tejapalcheri is an Australian painter who is recognized as one of the most successful Australian artists of the 20th century. His paintings have been held at many famous galleries, including the National Gallery of Australia and the Royal Collection. He was a woodcarver at first, but then moved on to paintings in the early 1970s. It wasn't before long that he received recognition on a national level for his paintings. One of his biggest recognized achievements is his contributions to the indigenous community as he emulates the culture in most of his works. Possum was known as a very dedicated artist who put his entire effort into making and promoting his and his family's works. It is because of this dedication that he is so widely praised. He is also known for making his paintings have a 3D character to them. His canvases are known to pop in a sense. His work is considered to be contemporary, but the roots of it and the style embodies the Aboriginal inspirations that he has. Some of his works is also considered to be a visual writing that speaks to the Aboriginal Australians.